Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We are back to do the final touches on my show trees for 2018. It's been a month since my last update on my Portulacaria afra forest. These trees are styled to look like African Baobab trees. Today I'll be giving the trees their final pruning and working on the landscape here in the Bonsai zone. In the last month, the moss has grown really thick, especially around the base of the trees. So my first task will be picking away that moss so you can see the root base clearly. So I'll use my tweezers and just pick it away at the base here. I'll have to decide with this landscape how much moss I want on it, whether I want the landscape to look lush and green, or if I want it to look like a dry, barren, desert type landscape. They're both different looks, a dry look versus a lush look. One look may represent the rainy season, the other the dry season. I'm also thinking of defoliating the trees, just to have the bare branch structure showing. African Baobabs do lose their leaves, so it would look quite nice. I finished cleaning out the moss around the main tree now, so you can see the root base clearly. I've got the moss cleaned away from the base of the trees, so now it's time to defoliate them. After defoliation, I found the Portulacaria afra grows its new leaves in very quickly, within a week or two. I'm thinking if I defoliate now, I may get some tiny leaves appearing for the show, or at least the indication of leaves, and I think it'll look really good. So here I go. These leaves are edible, and I'm starting to like them. Some of the older leaves are quite large on the trees, so it'll be nice to get rid of those large old leaves and replace them all with smaller ones. If I notice any shoots that are getting long, I'll prune them back too to keep the trees compact. I find cutting the leaves off is much easier than twisting them off. Twisting can take longer. You got to twist them around a few times, and sometimes they break off cleanly and sometimes they don't. So I find just cutting them, leaving just a little tiny piece of the leaf on, works the best. Defoliation like this should only be done on a really healthy tree that's growing strongly. Some of these leaves that I'm pruning are quite old. They're probably from springtime. So it's nice to clean out all these old leaves. They're large and they're not at the tips where you want the foliage. I can see why elephants like these leaves. Not only are they juicy, but they're tasty and really good for you. Defoliation can give you a really good look at the branch structure. And I'm sure I'll be coming in after all the leaves are removed and going over the structure and just refining it, pruning out some crossing branches and branches that aren't growing the right direction. However, that will be quite some time from now. This is quite a long process, removing all these leaves. The more ramification you have on a tree, the longer it takes to defoliate it. The Portulacaria afra is used to defoliation. Elephants will come in and strip all the leaves and small branches off the plants, probably a couple of times per year. So this is just simulating a natural process. I'm almost done the main tree. I've got a few branches left to do. It's still the same day. I haven't gone overnight yet. I'm eating about half of the leaves. I'm kind of hungry, so there's a good one to eat. Another good one in here. The older leaves are a little sweeter, and the newer ones are a little more bitter, or tart. Tart's the word. It's nice to see the branch structure, see how the branches are developing. I can already see some that I need to prune out of the design. They're kind of crisscrossing or growing in bad direction, so we'll focus on pruning that up a little later. You can see all the different size leaves. They range from, the old ones are quite large, and the new summer leaves are quite tiny. These ones were probably grown indoors. I've got my main tree defoliated, 12 more to go. Good morning, it's day 2 now. I'm continuing work on the Portulacaria afra trees, defoliating them for the club show. I'm down to my last tree now. It's been a nice morning listening to the birds and the crickets, but we'll keep going here. I've got just one more leaf to remove, so here I go. There we go. Done. The next step, I'll be going above, looking down at the trees and sorting out the branch structure. I'm looking down at the structure now, and I'm looking for shoots that are too long or that are crossing out, shading out branches down below. Here's a shoot here that's interfering with these branches, so I can cut it off shorter. And I can see the stubs from the leaves I removed, so I know I'll get a branch coming out this direction. Here's another one that's starting to interfere with this branch, so I'll prune it off shorter. This branch is shading out the one below, so I'll have to prune that off shorter also. It's getting a little long on top. So I'm just going through all the branch structure from above and looking at it and sorting it all out. I don't want the individual trees overlapping each other, so I've got to keep them compact. Otherwise they just keep spreading out and shading out each other. I'll take this branch off here. There's a branch that's kind of coming back on itself and shading out these other branches, so I'm going to take that off here. This needs to be shortened here. Take the tip off here. Tip off here. Here, here. Trying to keep all these trees near the back nice and compact so they look miniature. Branches like these, they're really long and straight, So I don't want that, so I'm going to cut them back so I get some movement to them, like that. My next step is to decide what to do with the moss. I don't want a lush, tropical looking layer of moss over the entire surface. I just want little clumps to look like grass. I'll start in the front corner here, and I'll just try picking out clumps of moss, leaving some in place to look like grass, just to break it up a bit, and I'll see what it looks like. I found holding the moss in place with your fingers and then picking it out works the best, so it doesn't pull really large clumps up like that. So I'm just kind of clearing it around the rocks, making it look like little patches of grass and bushes and that kind of thing, just to break it up. I don't want any moss overhanging the lip of the pot here either. I'll also be using the scissors to kind of transition the moss from the areas underneath the tree to the areas with moss, so it doesn't look like an abrupt edge. I'm making good progress with the moss. It's looking more realistic looking, or miniature looking. I'm continuing to pick away at the moss, making it less green and more arid looking, leaving little clumps of moss here. I was never happy with just the playground sand color, the brown playground sand. It was too dark a covering for my desert landscapes. The white industrial sand is just too light. It's it makes it look artificial. So I was thinking a mixture of the two would probably look just right. So that's what I'm going to try, is a mixture of the white industrial sand and the brown playground sand to try and give that nice desert sand look. I'll mix 1 part playground sand with 1 part industrial sand and see how the color looks. I'll mix that together. We'll see what color I get. That's not a bad color. It's a nice desert tan color. I really like that. So I think the 50-50 ratio works really well. This sand is a little damp right now, so it'll probably even go a slightly lighter color as it dries. I'll add the sand to the landscape now, and I'll just try and place the sand between the clumps of moss to kind of fill in those areas and level it with the spoon. I'll just do this one corner of the landscape as a test area, and if I like it, I'll do the rest. I'll get the watering can out now. Here I go with the water, and you can see how it's leveling out all the sand. Okay, that should do it. I'm stepping back, having a look at it now, and I like it. I checked my reference photos of baobab trees, and they had a very similar color, kind of dusty sand soil beneath the trees. I could add a little bit of the red turfus to it, but I don't think I need to. I think it's a good color. It kind of matches the tonal values of the trunk, and yeah, I'm happy with it, so I'm going to continue applying it to the rest of the landscape. I'm applying more sand now with the spoon. I was hoping to repot this forest this summer, but I don't know, summer just seemed to go by so quickly. now it's the end of summer and they're not repotted, so health-wise they don't need repotting. The trees are doing really well. But I'd like to get the roots sorted out a bit more next year, so next summer I'll try and get them repotted. I'll give the new sand a watering to get it all leveled out. I'll definitely have to tip this pot up and drain it really well before I put the planting away. Without leaves on the trees, I don't want the roots to begin rotting with standing water in the pot, so I'll be sure to drain it really well. I'll keep it tipped up quite high, get all the excess water out, and I probably won't water it at all until the show. Here's a look at the landscape now. It's almost done. I'll fly you around so we can have a look at it and see how it looks from different angles. I've got my pot tilted up now. I'm draining all the excess water out of the pot that I can, and then I'll get it back on the bench. The sand is starting to dry in places, and it has a really nice light tan color. I'm really happy with that. When I started this planting out, it had a lush covering of moss and a nice green canopy of leaves, and it looked quite nice. It was a nice look, but this is just a different look. This is a dry landscape, no leaves on the trees, so both look equally good to me. That's that's all the work I'll be doing on the Portulacaria afra for today. I'm Nigel Saunders, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here in the Bonsai Zone.